In my opinion, Starfield is the best Bethesda game that they've ever made, coming from Todd Howard and his team at Bethesda Game Studio. Starfield is beautiful, it is fun, it is addicting. I had 4+ hour play sessions, which is the second time of this year a game has done that for me. And it was just a load of fun. And out of all the Bethesda games that they've ever released, this one is one of the most polished ones. But despite that, the game is not perfect. It does have one main fundamental flaw that has many sub-flaws underneath it. So let's get into it. Performance and bugs. This game on my PC ran pretty much like a dream. I do have a 3080 Ti with a 10700K, so I do have a very strong rig. But I was getting about 80 frames per second on average with max settings on my rig. So I was getting good performance. However, I did experience some frame rate drops in the main cities like New Atlantis and Aquilia. But overall, it wasn't really an issue for me. Performance-wise, this was really good. In terms of bugs, I did experience a couple bugs. One bug, I had a companion just sliding along sideways while looking like she's typing something of some sort. Or I had another bug where I was in a dialogue option and I'm staring at the top of the person's head and not their face. So there was that traditional Bethesda jank that is here. But aside from that, yeah, the performance was really good. In terms of graphics, well, the graphics of this game I think are inconsistent. I think overall across the board the art design is fantastic, but when it comes to the technical side of things, sometimes NPCs look good, sometimes NPCs don't, sometimes the world looks good, sometimes the world does not. Things like foliage and trees look pretty shitty, but city architecture looks great. So it really is hit or miss. One of the things that I'm not a fan of is that they still have that, NPC stare glaze at you during dialogue options. This goes in part of the flaw of this game, but it's one of those things where this is new, 2023. A lot of games have evolved NPC conversations. You look at Cyberpunk, you look at Horizon Forbidden West, you look at Baldur's Gate. Their NPCs and their interactions, and when you have your dialogue options, are far superior to what Starfield has to offer. So even though the graphics and models have a lot of detail to them, they still have that very dated, static look that kind of ruins the visuals, at least for me, a little bit. In terms of the game's story, the main quest itself is nothing special, in my opinion. In my opinion, the main quest itself, it's basically a giant fetch quest to solve a mystery. That's basically the gist of it. However, what I will say is really cool is not only does the game flex based on your choices, but also the game actually ties New Game Plus into its narrative, which I thought was really, really cool. And it's something that is a little bit different from other games that have New Game Plus. Now, the side quests and the character quests, those are great. Those are absolutely fantastic. They are the shining star of Starfield's narrative and lore. Those are the missions. Whether it's you work for a corporation and your job is to take out its competitor, or whether you get arrested and then your choice is to face prison or become an undercover agent. These side missions are absolutely fantastic and the best aspect of Starfield, in my opinion, when it comes to story and lore. Now, how is the combat of this game? Well, I was actually pleasantly surprised. The combat in this game is probably some of the best combat to come out of Bethesda Game Studio. I did not like Fallout's combat. I did not like the combat of Skyrim. I always felt that it was clunky and janky. But safe to say, in Starfield, the combat is actually really good. It was fun. It had great responsiveness. The only thing that was really shitty was that the AI on the normal difficulty isn't the brightest cat in the world. But aside from that, the combat did feel good, at least for me. Now, sticking with combat, we have also space combat. Now, space combat is okay at best. It is cool to fly your ships. It is cool to be in combat. But aside from basically getting behind an enemy ship and then using your target lock system, if you have that perk unlocked, and like taking out ships, that's okay. The cool part about space combat is when you take out a ship's engines and then you dock on the ship only to steal it for yourself. Now that is really cool. And that's probably the best aspect of space combat. And of course you have the other aspects that, the physics of this game really, really good, especially when it comes to combat, because there was a time where I commandeered a ship and the gravity systems was destroyed, and therefore everybody's floating around. I'm firing my shotgun. I'm blasting myself away from the enemy because of the pushback from the shotgun, and you just see dead bodies floating. It was the combat in zero gravity, the combat in general, both in space and on the ground, are both good and good enough to have a lot of fun with, especially given the physics engine that is running in Starfield. Now, when you get into the game, you have to obviously create your character. When you create your character, the character creator in Starfield is actually really, really good. I spent about 40 minutes making my character. I have a colleague, he spent 3 hours making his character. Is it as in-depth as, let's say, Baldur's Gate? No. But is it deeper than most games? Absolutely. And there's a lot of customizations. I actually, as of the making of this review, saw someone make Todd Howard himself in the game, so that was kind of interesting. But one of the things that is important when you create your character is the traits that you have to select. Now, I chose the Bounty Hunter as my background, and because of that, I had 3 perks into the tech side of the skill tree. And because of this, I was able to start the game with a jetpack already and had the ability to target other ships' systems because of the background I chose. Now, there is no level cap to my knowledge, and I completed the game at level 33. So you can choose one set of traits and then just completely ignore that tree and go elsewhere. But just bear in mind that there is no respec option in Starfield, so that if you do start one way and you want to convert, you're going to have to play the game quite a bit in order to get your skills on that side to match, because you can't respec. But aside from that, the character creator and the decisions you make are really good, really deep. The character creation and the customization of your character is fantastic. Obviously, you have other things like what suit you're wearing, what weapons, etc. The customization of the characters is also one of the great things about Starfield. However, not every aspect of Starfield is fantastic, because I spoke at the top of the video that there is one main issue with Starfield, and that comes with overall game and technical design. And what do I mean by this is, for example, load screens. This game has a lot of load screens. Now, obviously, from the technical side of it, being in space and having to fast travel to the space station's orbit in order to fly to the space station is a technological design, dated design. In No Man's Sky and Star Citizen, you could freely go from planet to space, space to planet, no load screen, what have you. Meanwhile, in Starfield, there's a load screen. I feel like this is a technical design where the technology they're using to make Starfield, the creation engine, is dated. Then there's other game design choices that were just dated from a design standpoint and has nothing to do with the technology. For example, let's talk fast travel. If you fast travel to the lodge, which is your home base, they will put you outside of the lodge. You then have to open a door to go into the lodge and therefore see a second load screen. You could totally eliminate that second load screen by just spawning me inside the lodge when I fast travel to it. This would be a huge quality of life change for the game. And when you look at the competition, when you look at how open world games have evolved, then you look at Starfield, you sit there and say, well, why does Starfield have a lot of load screens? Why does Starfield have a crappy inventory management system? Why does Starfield have a crappy service map where it doesn't even tell you things like where the vendors are? These are all dated design philosophies. I've seen people sit there and say, oh, but Fallout 4 had these things. You're right, Fallout 4 did have these things. But Fallout 4 came out 5, 6, 7 years ago. The open world formula has evolved. The open world formula has changed. And it seems like Bethesda is stuck in the past. And it shows with Starfield. While Starfield is their biggest, most ambitious game that they've ever done, while I love Starfield and I love the characters, I can't sit here and deny that the game, from a technological and from a game design standpoint, is in its own inherently dated. All these aspects, whether it's the load screens, the abundance of them, the crummy exploration where you can't freely travel from planet to space, space to planet. You have to use the menus. Whether your crummy map is from dated from 5, 6, 7 years ago, there is a lot of aspects with regards to the game that feels dated. Many people and other critics and everyone else have mentioned this and brought this to the attention, said, hey, look, we don't have a good fast travel system. Hey, we have a lot of load screens. Hey, the map really sucks. Yeah, these things are all true, but they all fall under that one umbrella of dated game and technical design decisions. We all know the creation engine is dated. Yes, they're using the creation engine too, but its foundation is still built 15, 20 years ago. It's an old engine that clearly limits what they could do with Starfield. Then, like I said, when you're fast traveling and you're putting me outside of a lodge instead of inside of a lodge, and I have to see yet another load screen, that is just a poor game design decision, a dated one. This isn't 2013. This isn't 2015. This is 2023. And when you look at the competition, when you look at Baldur's Gate, you look at Mass Effect, you look at Cyberpunk, you look at all these other games and what they bring to the table. Then you look at Starfield and say, well, Starfield really does feel dated in a lot of ways, despite how good the game is. And that's what I want people to take away with this. Yes, the game design and technological side of Starfield is dated. Yes, if you are looking for space survival, No Man's Sky, Star Citizen, you will not find that here. This is a Bethesda RPG. As many people have said, this is a Bethesda game. This is Bethesda RPG, Bethesda Jank. All of these terms revolve around one thing. This is a Bethesda game through and through, and the best that they've ever done. If you do not like Bethesda RPGs, if you didn't like Skyrim, if you didn't like Fallout, you are more than likely not to like this game. If you do like those games, there's a very good chance you are going to love this game. As I stated at the top of this video, I was playing 4+ hour game sessions playing Starfield. I was hooked. And the only other game that has ever made me feel this way that was released in 2023 was Jedi Survivor. Every other game I'd play about 2 hours and then I need a break. But not these two. These two games I absolutely love, and I adored Starfield. I love Starfield and I speak high praise of it. But you need to go in understanding that this is, without a shadow of a doubt, a Bethesda RPG through and through, better or worse. They did not evolve with the times. They stayed in the past. And this is why, despite how great Starfield is overall as a package, it still feels dated. Many have pointed out the variety of flaws, but they all fall under that dated technological and game design mentality. These philosophies are too old and have not aged well, and Starfield is showing that these aspects of designs are not aging well for 2023 and beyond. So hopefully, the Bethesda Game Studios take this information, take this criticism, and apply it and address it for Elder Scrolls 6. I don't need to be fiddling in my menus. I don't need a bad fast travel system. I don't need a bad map when I'm playing, eventually Elder Scrolls 6. But overall, Starfield is a fantastic space game, a fantastic space RPG. And is a lot of fun to play. And you will spend hours upon hours, whether that's building your ship, which you can spend hours on, building a home base, which you could also spend hours on. There's the creations that you can do with those systems is utterly amazing. And this is without mods. I'm not even going to bring up the fact that the game can be modded and there's already mods to put things in like DLSS. People have already made ships like the Normandy. People have already made ships like a Star Destroyer. I mean, the shipbuilder, the base builder, it is a deep learning curve to learn how to build these things. But once you get in and you learn, there's so much creativity for the player in terms of customization with the character, customization with the ships. The gameplay is fun. The universe, the main side quests and the main quests, yeah, they're fun and entertaining. But overall, this is a great RPG, and I recommend this to anyone, and I mean anyone. There is a lot you could do here, and your playthrough will vary from person to person. And the more hours you put into Starfield, the more you're going to get out of it. But overall, I loved Starfield despite its flaws. Despite the dated technical design, despite the dated game design, I loved this game. I had a blast. I'm giving Starfield a 9 out of 10. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.